Oh yes, that's the one I wanted. Thanks. Okay, it's happening, is it? Good evening, cherubs. Welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast tonight, the WWVB, coming to you live from Auckland, New Zealand, by the Pakeha Queen. That's me. Well, my regular talk that I've been having recently is about the worldwide war on whites and how this is being played out in New Zealand, and who are the bad actors that are gleefully getting on this train of let's just wipe away our national heritage and start again with this newfound new tribal religion. So the world is being affected, but I don't so much want to talk about what's happening overseas. I'm sure that most of us have got our eye on what's happening in Europe, particularly in the UK, where they're having a big fight back and they're standing up. New Zealand is a little bit behind the ballpark. However, we have a slightly different problem here. The immigrants that come here are fine. The only problem we have is the immigration policies about employment and how they're self-serving and employing their own kind, and Kiwis are being pushed out of the job market. So there's a problem there. But the main problem that we're having is, and I'm sure that I am speaking on behalf of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Kiwis who are sick and tired of the Maorification. Now, it's really nothing to do with racism or not liking the Maori culture or the Maori people or what they're doing, their shows and, you know, their whole like industry and empire that's been created for the last few decades, because we've been involved in buying tickets to all of that and you know, just accepting it, and, you know, it's all endearing. You know, even the Aotearoa name for New Zealand, it's Tomb of Endearment sort of thing, it's just a nickname. And, you know, generally I believe that Pakeha have just gone along with it. Okay, some have got involved, some have got heavily involved because they have mixed families. So, but gradually over time what we've seen is an overlaying of what was good and true and right in this country once, that we enjoyed in society, a happy, united people with mostly shared interests. Okay, mostly shared interests. Everybody was free to do whatever they wanted. Okay, and we all enjoyed a lifestyle that we created together that was really unique, not like anywhere else in the world. And that's what people loved about New Zealand, and that's what we loved about New Zealand as citizens, and that's what the rest of the world loved about coming here and being able to experience all those great things about New Zealand and its people. Gradually over the decades we've had more multiculturalism, and I think by now we can realise that it really has been a social experiment that hasn't worked very well, because the Kiwi culture that we used to have wasn't really one of collectives. Everybody was really an individual and could believe whatever they wanted, but most of us believed the same when it came to the tikanga, which was Christianity. And the reason why that was running so well is because it worked. And that's what saved the Maori people in the first place, and most of them enjoyed it and loved it, and they experienced God, which was introduced to them by the Pakeha missionaries. That's the foundation of the native Pakeha race here, is bringing the message of the gospel. And the Maoris flew the flag of the gospel at the mission stations, and they made a covenant with God, they got baptised, and they changed their life, and they abandoned the old ways. In fact, they condemned the old Māori tikanga. Now, while I'm on that note, I just wanted to show you, which I have before, this is your get your Maori tikanga out of my face, I'm not interested exemption cards. Now, I can send you some of these, or I can send you the PDF, or you can type it up yourself. you get 4 of them onto an A4 size sheet and you have them laminated. Cut them and have them laminated. And have them in your bag ready to hand out in the workplace. Could be at school, anywhere. You just have them in your bag. And if you feel pressured and oppressed by this Maori tikanga dominance, and you're being made to do something or learn something that you don't agree with, then you pull out this card. So this is why I've created these, and even though I complain and have grievances about the Maorification, it's nothing to do with colour of the skin or anything like that, because white people are identifying as Maori. You don't really know, whether they've got Maori in them or not until, they say it or they promote the Maori culture for themselves and their family or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not the culture that's the problem. It is the defamation and the shame, the blame game against Pakeha. The blasphemy of tikanga Christianity. There used to be a law against that. If we want to go back to treaty times, there was a blasphemy law where you weren't allowed to blaspheme Christianity, because the treaty chiefs knew that that was the solid pillar, and they wanted it going forward. They expected all of their descendants to learn Christianity, and you shouldn't take it away from them. You can't take it away, and that's what's happened. The government decided, there's a lot of cultures coming in and they all don't believe in Christianity. They've got different faiths and different religions. So we started pandering to other people's faith. And that's gone so far now as the Christian faith is literally being blasphemed as evil. It's like, how did we let it go this far? So this is where the grievance is. Okay, it's the defamation of the Pakeha. It's us being suppressed and marginalised and not having a voice in a TV channel and radios and 200 clan trusts that we can identify with here in New Zealand. Where's our Pakeha Council and Crown Relations Minister? Access to the tribunal. Why has it been for 50 years? It's been no Pakeha allowed at the tribunal. We've got claims, we've got grievances past and present. We don't have a hotline to the government to say, we don't like that law you're making. You're breaching the English treaty. We just don't have that hotline as the other race of the treaty, which is Pakeha. We have a legal right to have what Māori have. That's the only balance that we can, that is sustainable for New Zealand, because it always was, until it became unsustainable, where Māori have dominated the airwaves, if you like. They have really dominated the space of people's minds after decades of treaty workshops. So they've been left to teach people about our history, and Pakeha haven't been able to defend what they're saying. When you have a tribunal, tri meaning three, you've got the adjudicator or the judge, and you've got the defendant and the complainant. So the defendant here has been missing, and that's us Pakeha. We haven't been able to sit as representatives of our ethnic native community, as the other race of the treaty, to sit, on the other side in front of the Crown about their claims and what have you. Because it started out as just, let's not sell any more land, and now it's like they're right up our noses now and in our minds, and bullying us to believe their newfound tikanga. And this is a pressure in society upon our children. Our Pakeha children are made to feel like guilty, and we want to set up some programs for Pakeha children where people can develop modules where they can start feeling confident about being white and the goodness of the Pakeha history. There's a lot of good there. Yeah, there was some bad stuff, of course, on both sides, and that's in every culture and every nationality, every country. Isn't it about time only the good of Pakeha was promoted, like we do all other cultures here? Isn't it about time our name was in lights and that we had branding and a logo and a costume and a song and dance, like every other culture? You know, isn't it about time that the cultural fest included colonial displays that everybody loved to see in the museums once, and now they've removed them all and taken them away? So this worldwide war on white is against colonials who've come to countries where there's native people, and you know, we perform miracles, but that doesn't matter. Apparently we drove their culture away. No, actually we preserved it. You know, the language, the translations to the Bible, the dictionary, the treaty. Those are all our instruments, Pakeha instruments, and they've been captured by Maori. We don't even get to see the true, final, original English treaty document. I mean, that's just, how could you have a debate, or how could you have even a class of teaching or a treaty workshop if you don't have the English treaty to view? It just doesn't seem, there's no common sense left anymore. And, you know, one of the traits of the Pakeha is innovation and intuition. And if anybody's the guardians of this land, it's us. And this is why we've been kicked to the curb, because other bad actors want to take over that space. And what I wanted to talk about too was actually the church and them being the reason. Well, one of the major reasons that Christianity has declined. The numbers of Christian people might not have, and apparently I think around 60% of New Zealanders consider themselves Christian according to the 2018 census. But not all of those will be going to church, and not all of those Christians would be standing up for the faith in everyday life or in the workplace or anything. They'll be being quiet and not really sharing it because the suppression is there. It has to be suppressed for something else to come into the space. You know what I'm saying? We've got a triple threat here in New Zealand as Pakeha Christians. We've got the tribal hybrids, I call them, and they're mostly European people, and they have a lot of Pakeha traders working behind the scenes for them as well. Billions of dollars worth of people getting paid to work like a worker bee for Maori, for the Maori industry. And most of it is based on lies and untruths, and they have to make us look bad to extort from us. You know, we've put them behind apparently, but you know, they went from savages to Hollywood pretty quickly, the newest tribal uncivilized race to be civilized and just be prosperous like everyone else. And in such a short amount of time we brought them with us, only now to be betrayed. I mean, this is not looking good. We don't like this legal separation where the Maoris are having their cake and eating it too. We actually want a divorce. I mean, all this one people and that is all very well, but it's really just one people under the law. Okay? Apart from that, when it comes to ethnicity and culture and what have you, everybody seems to be enjoying their, you know, rich culture. But at the same time, defaming us and not allowing us to celebrate. It's not being really preserved, and the faith isn't being contended for by the government. I think they're breaching the treaty. The English treaty needs to be seen by the public. You can't have a discussion without it. We haven't seen it yet. What they're using at the Te Papa Museum on display there, the one that got, you know, defaced by the abseilers. I don't know what happened to them, never heard anything about that. That wasn't the true English final original treaty. They won't show us that. Okay, the one that they display is a back translation. This is just so sinister. It's like playing a record backwards, you know. It's just evil. The English treaty we get taught in this country is a back translation that the Waitangi Tribunal commissioned Hugh Kawharu to do in 1986. I mean, conflict of interest. Well, let's just back translate the Te Reo version into another form of English. Yeah, well, you know, what did Pakeha say about that? Well, we weren't allowed a voice. We weren't allowed to say anything about that. We've been crying out and having grievances for 50 years and nobody's listened to us. We don't have a Crown Relations Commissioner to sit with us, and we don't really have a Pakeha leadership as such for our ethnicity. Everybody else has, except us. We just never thought we needed to tribe up, but we do. We need to tribe up. We need to come together in conference. We need to apply some strategies and solutions. And we need to equip people. I mean, we need to educate people and edify them. The church itself has failed because they've got a lot of I mean, we're the Bible Belt of the Pacific. You know, the Christians are numerous, but they don't do anything because they've been silenced as well. The churches, the people who are running the churches, the pastors, the shepherds, they've failed. They've been weak. They have been weak, and they have kept the flock weak. They just go along and they comply. They're not really churches. We need a whole new breed of church, and it needs to be different. It needs to be straight out of the book of Acts in the Bible, where people came together and they shared with each other the great things God has done. You know, they got healings. You know, the ones that were travelling around came back with their messages and their collections, and, you know, they were helping people and they were spreading the word, and that's what Pakeha have done. That's what the white people in the world have done. They were dispersed out of their homeland, okay, because we are, I believe, we're descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, and all Christian people are called by God, and they're all part of the Commonwealth of Israel. And wherever we've gone, we've made it prosper. And there's zero racism in our travels and our heritage and history, and there's zero racism in our past in New Zealand too. And I say that with confidence because the invasion that happened here was a revival, and it was an invasion of the Holy Spirit. It was a work of God. These people were called to come here and sent by God. So Christianity planted itself, and we bridged the gap. The Protestant Christians, or the Anglican Protestants, not the Anglican Catholics. It's a different creed, a different tribe. The Protestants set the flame of God and Christ in this country. And the treaty chiefs knew that. That's why they declared that Christianity was the new TK, and you can't change it. Don't even try. It's not right. It breaches everything about every treaty. It breaches the covenant of God. And those treaty chiefs made their last will and testament, and they said it. TK Christianity is it. It needs to be made official. That's what it needs. Because if there's just a big gap of nothing without Christianity, then this is how Islam slides in and takes over. They have done it through history, the fundamental ones. Okay, they have infiltrated all the Christian countries in the Middle East, ones like Iran and Iraq and Lebanon and Jordan, all of them. Okay, and they wait until they go from Christian to secular, so there's a decline in Christianity, and then Islam comes in and infiltrates as friends, and then eventually gets into places of power, and boom, it comes under the enslavement of the Islamic regime. Okay, and there's certain countries, Arab countries, that are really strong with that. Other ones, other Middle Eastern Arab countries are more, you could say, Christian or righteous based, and they don't like the Islamic terrorists, and they're doing something about it. I think they have had, just this week, have had a big conference, and the consensus is they want to get rid of the Islamic terrorists, the ones that are terrorists. That's right. Well, that is a threat to Christianity here in New Zealand as well. So we have to be concerned about that as an ethnicity, as native people in New Zealand. The other threat is the rainbow community, because part of the decolonisation is these campaigns that they've been running is stripping people of the whiteness of the coloniser. That's how they say it in their unapologetically run courses to do just that. Strip Pakeha or anybody else of the coloniser mind and way of thinking and even ways of doing, or as far away from it as they could possibly get. And that's why this new Maori religion has emerged. So it's a little bit of the old tikanga mixed in with other new things, and also European elements, of course. And it's just all mixed up and said this is going to be the antithesis to the coloniser culture. Okay. You can't really decolonise. I find it very insulting and offensive, to be honest. I mean, I think de-indigenising is probably more important at the moment, to de-indigenise New Zealand. Because the Maori weren't indigenous. And they're mixed with us now, and it's really not right to divide families that way. Now, I want to talk about strategies, though, okay? So apart from my, go away with your Maori tikanga cards that you can contact me about, I'll put my email in the comments. We need, as Pakeha, the Christian ones, we need to be the church, because they've all failed. They've stoned the prophets, they haven't listened to. God hasn't been guiding the churches with what's been going on. So it's up to actually, God is raising up prophetic people. I'm a prophetic person, I always have been, and I have explanations and for that if anybody wanted to know my testimony since I was a child, seeing visions and what have you, and learning about the Bible and the history of the world and that sort of thing. And so I have a pretty good grasp on the historics of the Holy Land in the Middle East and what's happened in history. Okay? There's a big confusion about everything, and this is what people are fighting about. So educational unity is one of the key things that I'm interested in for New Zealand. Educational unity. We have to all think the same about our history. It's not very long, it's only a couple of 100 years. If we don't get the story balanced out, and everybody's perspective on it has to be, we have to have a freedom to have our own view and opinion about it. If you're going to extend anything else from those 3 articles, it's just your view and perspective and opinion. You can't get that into law. You can't make up principles. You just can't. If you want principles that are attached to the 1840 Te Tiriti o Waitangi, then you have to jump forward to the 1860 Bright Light Treaty, Te Tiriti o Kohimarama, 1860. That was recorded at the Kohimarama Conference in Auckland in 1860 by 150 native treaty chiefs and the governors and some other people, some hapu and settlers, that were convening and reflecting on the 1840 treaty and what had happened. It had been broken, it had been breached, it was misunderstood, so they kind of scrapped it, and it says they made it null and void. This is very important that New Zealanders need to know, okay? The 1840 Te Tiriti o Waitangi was made null and void because it was broken and breached, and because it was being misunderstood, and there was a rebellion. Okay, so they spent a month long every day figuring out the solution, okay, and they came up with strategies that the government would give effect to, okay, and there was 5 main principles that are being breached today. Well, since 1975 they've been breached. I think we were living it up till then, but in 1975 all of those 5 main principles were breached, and that is the treaty that the Pakeha go by. You know why? Because it's our protection. It has protection for the Pakeha, and it has like call them what you want. I call them obligations because the 5 main ones were obligations upon the rebellious Māori. The rest of them were fine with everything, and the Pakeha people were not rebelling against the Crown, and they weren't attacking the Māori. They were doing business with them. And so there was like principles or obligations or rules set down going forward to 1860, and that was what they called the new treaty. Okay, so this new treaty, this amended one, superseded the other one was cancelled out. So Maori cannot make you abide by the 1840 treaty. However, the 3 articles were confirmed for the new treaty at Kohimarama. They were confirmed with tokens and allegiance, and it was discussed in length by a lot of them. And you can read all the records of the treaty chief speeches and how all those minutes of that meeting went online, Kohimarama conference records, papers passed. Every student needs to actually learn what happened at the Kohimarama conference. They really do. Otherwise, you just got no, you got no qualification to teach anything. I don't believe the Maori people are qualified to teach anything because they can't even understand the 3 simple articles. You know, the first one being handing sovereignty to the Queen. Their interpretation is didn't hand sovereignty. You know what I mean? Can you have these people teaching? We've had them teaching for 50 years. 50 years of treaty workshops. A lot of them run by Pakeha traders who are getting highly paid, and they're just sold out, happy to destroy their own heritage, you know, for a buck. It's like, I just can't understand it. I think Kiwis need to get more patriotic. We need to teach our kids to be patriots. Our Pakeha children really need to have like I don't know. We need to develop a children's course of, you know, how to grow up as a Pakeha in racist New Zealand. You know, we need to write a book about it. You know, how to combat being persecuted and made to feel guilty about, you know, something that you never did and that your ancestors never did either. You know, it's like children need to be taught to combat these things. You know, to combat it, to be on the defence of it, not on the offence, the defence. You know, they need to understand and be educated that the simple facts are the Maoris became Christians. Okay, they got baptised, they made a covenant with God, and then they made treaties according to the word of God and the gospel. That's it. You can't change it. I mean, they even said, the treaty chief said, the old tikanga was dead and buried, right? Don't go back to the old evil ways of ancestral worship and the tales and all of that sort of thing, because it's like a curse, you know. And if the Maori people want to be spiritual and honour the chiefs, so honestly, they said it in 1860, and us Pakeha, we seem to be the only ones that are actually speaking on behalf of the treaty chiefs. I mean, I love those old treaty chiefs, the righteous ones, not the Kingites, not the rebellious chiefs, the ones that caused trouble. They're the ones that got into Parliament and got the tribunal. They're the ones that moaned because, you know, while the northern tribes, the treaty chiefs really were becoming prosperous, you know what I mean, they really did, the other rebels in the Waikato and Taranaki and what have you, and also up in the, you know, northeast, they continued fighting and scrapping with each other and attacking Pakeha and stuff, and they were warned, you know, that they lost lives and land because of those Kingite wars. Everybody fought against them, right? And now we got them in Parliament, basically. You've got the Kingi being glorified today. They're the genociders of the past. I mean, why are we accepting this? It's because we're not educating people about the facts. Don't go on at me about how there's some genocide in Gaza when their population went from 700,000 to, 6 million or something in 75 years? No. It's the same with the Maori here. Oh, you've always wanted to exterminate us. Well, how come your population went from like 100,000 to now it's a million people identifying as Maori? Some great genocide there, isn't it? I mean, no, I think we've done the opposite. We've preserved. I mean, look at Bina Cooper, the mother of the nation, Land March, the real estate queen and the destroyer of race relations in New Zealand. I call her the little upstart stirrer. She lived to 98. That's because of colonialism. That's because of that. All those beneficial things, and I think Pakeha need to feel proud, or confident is my word, confident about our history here. You know, feel safe being born here, like we belong to the land as well. Our ancestors, I mean, my ancestors came in 1838 to Hawkesbury Bay in Otago, which is now had its a name change to Waikawaiti, into a Maori name. And that's where my ancestors landed, right? And we were just as close to the rivers and the forest, and, you know, we were living off grid as well and just starting out as pioneer settlers. I mean, didn't come with much, you know, didn't come privileged. And we worked the land and we worked it, and we after a while, basically, so many of us came because we were invited, and they wanted thousands of us to come. And we did not come on the premise that one day the Maori would be, you know, helping the Crown to govern us. No, I'm sorry, but that's insulting and offensive. We don't need help being governed. You know, we are the Crown, basically. The Pakeha are the governors of New Zealand. They always were, and nobody voted to change that. We just trusted the Maori MPs to be working for the country. Yes, representing their own people on occasions in the council, that's meant to be, not in Parliament. The treaty chiefs warned their people not to start political parties, and the reason for that was because if the rebels got into power into Parliament, you know, there would be chaos, and this is what we have now. The 5 main problems we are dealing with now, people, are the 5 problems that the treaty chiefs in 1860 were talking about with the governors. The rebelling against the sovereign crown, okay? It's happening again, just revisited, okay? Because we've enabled them, we've funded them. Attacks against Pakeha, and they're supposed to maintain friendships with Pakeha, okay? And they haven't. They're legally separated, and now basically we want a divorce from them. We want a separate entity, and we are going to declare our own independency and have our own Pakeha council, okay? If Maori think that they've got some independent declaration, well, we'll make one as well and be independent. See how the Crown likes that. So they need to have Crown relations with us Pakeha for a change and start working together with us. All I ever hear from these MPs in my local area here in Auckland, I've spoken to Helen White, you know, about it, and she just fobbed me off. I was talking about the Maorification and the co-governance, and she just said, we have to work together with them, and she walked off, and I'm like, well, how about working together with the Pakeha, Helen? You know, it's like, no, you don't matter. Well, we do matter, and we have to make ourselves matter. Okay, if you don't like the Pakeha name, you don't have to call yourself a Pakeha. But it has an honourable meaning in the beginning because they loved us back then. It's only the rebellious Maori that make a detrimental joke out of Pakeha, okay? We were the gods of the sea to them, okay? And that's exactly what we were. We were sent here and they knew it. And they wanted what we had. And it wasn't just our things, it was the God we believed in. And that's what made this country great, and that's why everybody loves New Zealand, okay? And everybody is free to do their thing, but there is a limit. There's a limit to that. And now the Pakeha are rising up, and we're taking our space back, which is equal with Maori. We want everything they got in 1975, so quickly after doing a march. I mean, I believe that basically the Freedom Village Parliament occupation in 2022 was really led by Pakeha, and because it was about everybody, it wasn't about a race. It was about how things affected everybody. Okay? The support and everything. Everybody was involved in that, yes. But what I'm saying is that anything that's Pakeha led, and that was a huge protest and encampment, and we got called a river of filth. Okay? Do you see the difference? Now that's wrong. Maoris have had 50 years, 50 golden years of holding the reins, okay, and now they want to control our minds and hypnotise everybody into their narratives, which are wrong, erroneous, and they've built their boohoo industry on a false narrative about history. It's fake, it's fraud, it's fiction, and this is what we contest and protest. The only way we can fight back is to have educational unity, so everybody knows how to answer. You know, because we just don't, people don't have the answers when they're confronted with being taught about something about our history that the Maoris want you to sympathise with them over. Because you don't know your history, okay, maybe you haven't got time to do it, or you're not shown it at school. You know, the Maoris think that the history of our country has all been, you know, for the Pakehas. No, not at all. There has been so many lies about what we apparently did in history, and there is nothing good that we did now. I mean, that's not fair to have Pakeha children at school not hearing anything good about their history here. That's wrong, and all they're hearing is negative stuff. That is a form of abuse. That's what I call it. What we need is a new breed of everything. We need Pakeha schools. We need Pakeha to form Christian groups, okay, not necessarily churches, but people who are interested in maintaining the supernatural faith that was brought to this country, that is now being stamped out by other religions coming in, overlaying it. The local tribal hybrids and also the rainbow community, they want to stamp out Christianity really bad. They just, I mean, you know, someday soon they're just going to ban the Bible as some kind of white supremacist, Nazi, racist book. You know, and by that time it'll be too late. We've got to act now, and we've got to defend the faith. And that's what oath that they take in Parliament. They're supposed to be defending the faith. And it was Queen Victoria that made the treaty with the Maori chiefs, and she was a defender of the faith, and so were the treaty chiefs. Everything's out of line now. These hybrid Maori elites that are in Parliament, they're rebels. They're the rebels of old, and I believe they need to bring the Rebel Act back. I mean, was it ever dissolved? They had a Rebel Act. They had a Blasphemy Against Christianity Act, and they also had a Tohunga Suppression Act, or Tikanga Tohunga, same similar thing, Suppression Act, because it was dangerous, and it was forbidden, and it was condemned. I mean, we are just not going by the 1860 treaty, and we should be. Don't worry about the 1840. It was all amended at the Kohimarama conference. And the Maoris are not promoting this, but this is the golden key for the Pakeha. The Pakeha is a legal, lawful title, okay? And it might only be all we have left soon, because we need to take things to court, because they're getting their voodoo into law now. So we need to approach this on a legal level. And first of all, what we're doing is we're growing a Pakeha movement. And you need to email, I'll put it in the comments below, to get on our registry in our email group, where we share ideas, and we're growing a movement, and we're just getting the numbers first. Lots of people have got initiatives and projects, ideas and special knowledge. Okay, so This is not going to stop. This is going to be a rolling stone. Okay, we have to tribe up. Everybody else is being self-serving. We have to do it as well. We've been pushed out of the job market. If you're an old white Christian, you're not going to get work because you are deliberately being pushed out by the DEI agenda. So all of these triple things are against us, the Maorification, the DEI agenda, and Islam coming in. We've got to solidify something together to get the numbers first and form a Pakeha Council. And so we should have a conference and start talking about some strategies of how we can preserve our heritage, our shared national identity, that we can honour the righteous treaty chiefs instead of allowing these rebellious types today, these extremists, the ones that want to tear down our culture like a form of utu because they believe that's what we did to them. No, we did the opposite. We preserved everything we possibly could, and we have actually let them embellish all of those things with European elements. And then they turn around and have the cheek to go and patent those new fandangled products and designs and things so Pakeha can't use them. I mean, they're using a lot of Celtic, Viking, South American, Indian, Aboriginal designs in their artworks and stuff, and they're calling it traditional indigenous art. I mean, really? I mean, we've let this happen and we've been tolerant for so long, but I think it's really been driven too far into this sort of fake fraud and fiction arena that now it's becoming very insulting and dangerous. And the whole momentum of the Waitangi tribunal industry has gone out the gate. It's like a locomotive that can't be stopped. It's branched out in all directions. And it's been, honestly, like a cancer that is choking us. It's like four walls closing in. And this has been spoken about a lot. I've seen a lot of conversations about it. The Maori people know what we're saying. We know how we're feeling. If they don't care, they're laughing at us. Okay? They're not going to have any sympathy. You get the odd Maori person that stands up for the Pakeha, but in general, they're actually wallowing. And they're wasting a lot of the funding they get. They get billions, and they're wasting a lot of it on bread and circus. And that's another thing I don't like. That is just being economical, and that's one of the traits of the Pakeha. Sustainable, economical, humanitarian, evangelical. Where would you be without the giving from the white people all around the world? Yes, we have been prosperous and made some wealth, but that's not a collective tribal wealth. A lot of individual Pakeha people in New Zealand are poor and struggling. They have no land and no house and, no assets and no job. I mean, let's really talk about inequality. It's really just people that just don't have assets, okay, or maybe a job or family support. Those are the poor people. Those are the ones that we really need to be focused on, okay, not on race-based policies and charity. Anybody that really needs it. I just don't like this backdoor auto giving, where charity is just directed into one place only, and it's just like a cookie cutter, money going into bank accounts. I mean, I just really want to know how much money has been given to this Maori economy, and should there be a Maori economy? Have the churches done enough over the years to prevent these anti-Christian agendas coming in? I don't think so. I don't think they have. I think the church needs to pull its head in, and they need to start having some unity and campaigning and doing certain projects. What they need to do is start edifying and equipping their own people as to what you need to be doing. Find out what God wants you to be doing, because what you're doing is not what God wants you to do. You're just totally weak and watery. The milk of the word, there's no meat in the house, there's no supernatural healing, there's no good guidance. You're just floundering around, you're opening your doors for people to be vaccinated, and you're sticking up Maori carvings in the churches, and you're letting gays at the pulpit. I mean, you've failed. There's a new breed of church coming, and it's going to have educational unity, because the church itself is really just the righteous people of the country. And I believe anywhere in the world, no matter what race it is, whatever, mixed race or whatever, okay, that it's the righteous people that need to be ruling, not rebellious people, okay, that want apartheid. Equal under the law, but you're different people. When cultures clash, you need to just keep it personal and private. Like, all the Maori stuff should be just at the maraes and in their own private homes. That's it. That's it. They have no right to put their tentacles out and all their feelers into every inch of society. You know, having absolutely no respect or regard for anybody else's faith or beliefs, or how they feel about that, or the humiliation, or the bullying, where it shut people down, and 50%, this is a survey done, 50% of people are too scared to speak out, so they just go along with things. That is a big form of heavy oppression, and people have got tired of it, because it's been building up, and it's like 4 walls closing in, and we are not taking it anymore. We're not taking it anymore. This is psychological abuse. It's racial abuse. We need to teach our children to love our culture. Okay, to love our culture. Like, anybody who doesn't have any melanated DNA is apparently a pariah, you know, and needs to be sort of like pushed back on. You know, this is why people are identifying as Maori, because it's just too hard to be a pure Pakeha, you know. But, no, I think the pure Pakeha, maybe we're a minority now, and, you know, maybe we are. People don't want to identify as a Pakeha, so we're a minority group. The other race of the treaty, and I think that has a lot of weight. So we must have objectives, and we must have strategies. All right, we have to take in knowledge, and if you stick with my page, I'm posting things. I'm not really doing much, to be honest. I'd like to have a proper podcast, but I'm still learning how to do these lives. I used to do a lot, and I've deleted quite a few, and I'm trying to get better and better at explaining things. And what I want is the Pakeha to be united as an ethnicity, and we're starting a movement. It's a socio-political movement, because we've all been politically activated, and everybody else is in their cliquey racial group, okay, except us. We have to adapt. We have to adapt, and we have to tribe up, okay, and we can do so many things. And if we just amalgamate and come into one generic engine room, where everybody that is like-minded against this Maorification and the dismantling of our wonderful heritage can come on board into one hub and help each other and support each other to maintain our significance and our wonderful faith here. You know, because God is real. He's not just a friend in the sky. People have met Jesus. Billions of people down through the ages have a testimony of meeting Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the Father. I mean, there's a plethora of books written about it. Everything is undergirded by the creative foundation of God, and there is one spiritual universal principle, okay, and that is we are accountable to the Creator. We're accountable. The Christian values are more of a philosophy than a religion. Religion is, you don't have to do anything as a free Christian. Okay? You just don't. You're actually free. And you're not only free to believe what you want to believe, okay? You are obliged. It is your duty to actually speak out wherever there is like oppression and evil, fraud, fake. God hates a false witness. It's one thing he really hates, a false witness. Somebody telling a story that isn't true. And that's what really makes my blood boil about these Maori people who are propagating and being false witnesses. You know, I don't know how they have drawn their narratives from archived records. I just don't really think that they search history. They just go with whatever the influencer says at the time. They've been promoted, they've been branded, they've been funded, and it's about time Pakeha started developing our cultural significance. I think Pakeha can be the next mega cultural trend. But we have to identify, what is it to be a Pakeha? What does it mean to be a native white person whose family has been in New Zealand for many, many generations? You know, how do we feel about being called European, and yet we don't call Maoris Polynesian? They've got a special name, Maori, and that seems to be everywhere and promoted everywhere all the time. What about the Pakeha name? I'd like to see our name in lights, and a reason for it to be in lights. So we've got to get creative. There is so many ideas and endeavours and benches that we can start. And this is just the beginning. The Pakeha movement had just begun. Okay, everybody's itching and aching to come together as one big, nice, tidy group that feels the same way and wants to maintain the best of what New Zealand can offer everybody. We want to get back to what society used to be like. We might not be able to have that, but we can maintain those values and stop the hate and the racism and the negative, ugly stories about our history, because you can't get any uglier than the pre-European savage natives. I mean, please, do we have to have a documentary that digs that all up just to balance it out and say, hey, look, you know, it's like we don't want to continue this creative fight anymore. You know, the funding for the artwork and the books and the films that Maori get, and all they're doing is weaving decolonisation and hate for whitey in there. It's just, we see it all the time, and, you know, it's about time we stood up to it, you know, and said no to Maorification. Get rid of their place names. We want our place names back. We want a reversal of a lot of things that have happened. We want representation. We want access to the tribunal, or we want a tribunal of our own. We want a Crown Relations Minister. We want somebody that is going to have a commission to work with the leadership of the Pakeha people. I'm the Pakeha Queen, and that's one of the reasons why I just say I am. I'm part of the royal household of God, though. I'm a born-again Christian, and I have ancestry going back to 1838 in New Zealand. And I'm on a mission of being called by God. That's just part of our culture and the DNA of our ancestors that did a great work here. Not just to develop the land and teach the Maori, but to bring the gospel of God, because most people were Christians back then, and they led a Christian life. And because they led a Christian life, they just didn't continue fighting, otherwise they would have, because there were lawless Pakeha that were fighting the Maori as well. Okay, so without us coming, without the missionaries and their brave work, putting their lives on the line to bridge that gap between hostility and peace through evangelical and humanitarian works, and that's the history excuse me, that is the wonderful history of the Pakeha in this country. I have other live videos that I've been doing. I don't want to go any longer than an hour, and it's coming up to that now, but we've got a lot of I'll put my email in the comments below, and just contact me and I'll send you our latest newsletter or our latest email that we've passed around our group. Ideas and what have you, and just gathering people together to talk about things. And we're going to have some online Zooms soon. I know I keep saying it, but I should just do it. I'm just not used to doing Zooms, you know. That's all. So, yeah, I'm not that technical, to be honest. So I believe in the old days, like when the Maoris say that they've got these principles of participation, partnership, and protection. Okay, and they repeat it all the time. They repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Well, those 3 Ps were actually supposed to be the relationship between Pakeha and Maori. Okay, 'cause we're the ones that are interfacing in the community and doing business together. It wasn't them having a partnership with the Crown, please. Because if it is, and that's going to somehow get into the law, then Pakeha are also going to be demanding the same. Okay, that the Crown has a partnership with us. This is why we've got to get a leadership together in the Pakeha Council and all that. Okay, and that's the reason for the Pakeha Queen. It's all theatre. Okay, don't forget that. The world is a stage, and we are playing a part in it. And it's all theatre. But people recognise kings and queens, and they recognise leaderships. And the Pakeha people don't have an ethnic leadership. It would be considered racist. We've got to break through that. Okay, so I'm starting a type of leadership. I'm pioneering a type of idea that says you can be a part of a Pakeha leadership. Okay, something that can carry on once I'm dead and gone. But I'm going to be doing this, Pakeha Queen, the Pakeha Movement, and as the other race of the treaty, we have a lawful and legal right. Okay, and our voices are not being heard. We're being stamped out in every way possible. It's a worldwide war on white, and that's how it's being played out here in New Zealand, using these hybrid tribalists and these revisionists to defame our culture, and therefore it needs to be, we need to get rid of everything that reminds us of it. Okay, that's what they're doing. That's what they have blatantly orchestrated for decades now. Okay, they've ruined all our museums and our art galleries. All of this bad whitey and terrible poor Maori is all woven in there, and here they are in Hollywood. I mean, these people are spending billions on bread and circus, while our voice is just, if we have anything to say about it, we're racist. Or if we talk about the concerns about the depravity of homosexuality in the community being groomed on our young children, we're homophobic. Or if we're concerned about, the rise of Islamic fundamentalism, and the way that they've been rising up in terror around the world, we get called Islamophobic. And it just cuts down conversation, and our freedom of speech is just about non-bloody existent. Okay? So we've had enough of the false news and the fake and the fraud and the fiction and the faux. I could write a song about it. Stand up for yourself. Follow my channel on YouTube as well. I've got the Pakeha Queen on YouTube. And these live videos I do, I download and I paste them up there as well. If I lose my page, that's where I am on YouTube, the Pakeha Queen. Just look me up. I haven't got many followers because I'm only just starting this. But I want to round up people. And all my cherubs, I just want to say, just hang in there. Okay? Don't feel like you're defeated. Okay? You just need to arm yourself with education. And I also suggest that you stop co-governance with Julian Batchelor. I'll put his link in the comments below as well. And he's doing a great work producing booklets and educational booklets. So I've been sharing those as well. And if you get on our email list, I always share what's coming out of the Julian Batchelor camp. He's done great work. He tried to have, I went to one of his meetings in 2023, stop co-governance meetings. I mean, every time he had a meeting, you had Maori thugs outside the door, making a noise and a disturbance and being abusive. I mean, what is wrong with these people? These are not the friendly Maori, noble Maori of old. They're not. These people are not. These people were condemned by the treaty chiefs long ago, these rebellious, horrible, spiteful, politically driven. They're not supposed to be starting political parties. They're actually not supposed to have Maori activism in our parliament. It is actually crumbling the whole thing. It's just all a shambles now. It's not stable like it used to be. We need righteous Pakeha people running this country. That's how it's supposed to be. We're not meant to have a Maori Governor General. She's not. She's just telling King Charles that everything's fine here. You know. So, nothing to see here, Charles. I don't know. It should be an English gentleman. It always was. And it always should be. You know, maybe we could have some slogans. Look, I want some people's help out there. Pakeha people have got, like, businesses. Because I'm starting a business network, a Pakeha business network. And the main reason I'm doing that is because the Pakeha people are not getting employed. Deliberate. It's deliberate. Everybody's self-serving out there. They are. And you know, when the immigrants come here and they get into business, they get captured by the treaty workshop, brainwashing, hypnotherapy, right? And so they don't like us, or, you know, because us white people here, we, you know, did injustices to marriage. So they have a really off vibe with us anyway, so they don't employ us. That's why they don't employ us. Okay, the Maoris and Islanders, they're getting employed. You know, they're doing fine. They've got billions to, they got organisations, they're always at that plethora of jobs waiting for the Maori and the Islanders to just be placed in there. Just placed in there. While we're struggling now because we've become the pariahs. Okay, so this is a fact, and there's got to be a white wave against this. Don't feel guilty about being white. I tell you what, the Caucasians all around the world are really fighting back on this, because everywhere in the world these melanated people have been running this decolonisation thing. It's like a cookie cutter script. You know, and the stories are saying, oh, wherever the whites went, they just, you know, they just, it's like, that is just, how could you possibly say that? It's 2025. We're supposed to be fighting against that kind of thing. And now it's all just like, all the melanators just going to dump on the white man, you know. It's like, it's absolutely crazy. And I really think it's just going to flip on its head, and they're going to be sorry. Because it's not, you know, when you get betrayed like that after you've, I don't know. I believe that we have been good to Native people. I believe we have. And I'm speaking on behalf of, you know, Christian people, really, which was most of the... We weren't necessarily ruling the country, so there was some skullduggery, of course, but I think the Crown... oh, it's gone over an hour now. I'm going to be leaving soon. I think the Crown did some bad deals with the Pakeha as well, and we need to be able to have space to talk about those grievances. Anyway, I'm going to go now, so just keep an eye on my live videos. I've been doing about one a week at the moment. You can look back on the pinned, you can look at the pinned features on my page, which are my last few lives. Or you can go onto my YouTube channel and see them. And I'll be back again with some more news about the war on white, how it's being played out here in New Zealand, and the strategies that we can implement to reach our objective, which is really just to at least preserve and hold fast to what we still have about our wonderful national identity and heritage here in New Zealand. So all the best, cherubs. I'll be praying for you, as I hope that you'll be praying for me as well. Love you. Bye for now.